motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the minutes dated July 11 and July 23 and July 30, 2024 as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Madison County School System recognition, sir? District highlights?
District highlights. Before I turn it over to Mr. Curry, Mr. Rogers shared with me that the PALS grant, which is Partners for Athletes and Leaders in Schools, is now partnering with Madison County. They have traditionally only worked with Huntsville City Schools, but now they are working with our schools as well. And their first initial partnership is they are awarding a grant to Hazel Green High School's flag football team of $2,027.53 for the girls' uniforms. And Central School also is getting a grant of $3,146 for new basketball goals in the gymnasium. So this is a new partnership that we're working with. Again, it's Partners for Athletes and Leaders in Schools. And traditionally, it's been a Huntsville school system only, and now they're partnering with Madison County as well. So I wanted to let y'all know about that. Mr. Curry?
I wanted you to be able to go last.
Sure, absolutely.
I just wanted to point out that at Riverton Elementary School this week, we received grants, very generous grants from both Rex Reynolds, Steve Livingston, and the Madison County Soil and Water Conservation in order to be able to enhance their outdoor classrooms and help start their Riverside classroom as well. So I wanted to let everybody know that that happened. And if you see those people, please give them a big thank you.
And Ms. Bates, we appreciate you attending that as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Jones from
And
Sparkman
Mr.
came
Jones
as
is there
well.
too. Yeah.
It was a very nice morning. It was wonderful to see those kids playing with all the outdoor things that teach them how to pretty much sustain themselves from an eco standpoint.
District 5, our highlights are pretty much like everybody else's. We safely opened up school. There's some minor complaints the first day on buses and car rider lines. That's away after about 3 days. We're getting geared up for our fall sports. Fall sports include football, middle school and high school level. Our first high school game is the 30th. And we're also getting ready for volleyball season. Getting geared up for those two sports.
That's about the same for District 3 too. Everybody's school is off to a good start, but everybody is getting ready for the new seasons coming up. So everybody's looking good. Can't wait to get out there and compete. So, Mr. Curry?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good opportunity today for us to get to know our administrators in District 1. So me and Mr. Kubik talked about each administrator saying a few words about their schools, and that would be in substitution of my district highlight. Mr. Kubik.
All right. So let's start off with our elementary schools first. We'll start with Hazel. Hayden.
Since they're new, you won't be able to just go ahead.
Sure, that if you'd like to introduce your family and members, that'd be great.
I didn't want to put you guys on things like that. Hey, guys, welcome to Hazel Green High School. Thank you all for coming out. This energy that we have is all day. It's 6 in the morning to about 10 at night. So this is not just a show, okay? We're full of Hazel Green energy. So yeah, just a little bit about Hazel Green High School, guys, and more importantly, our cluster, our family, guys. We have new principals coming in, and so we're gonna all work together. We're gonna love on each other. We're gonna get through those tough times together as a team. Today, we have 1,445 students registered at Hazel Green High School, and we're growing. We haven't gotten to Labor Day yet, so we know we'll get a little bump after Labor Day. We have 85 certified teachers on staff, and we have about 100, it's roughly 130, 135, all of us together. And so that's what we're doing every day on the campus, guys. Everything's going great. We have a great working relationship with our neighbors. To my right, back that way, Hazel Green Elementary. We're working through parking, guys. It's working. Stop. We're good. We're good. We're good. But guys, we just want to say thank you. We had an opportunity to walk around with the board members. I kind of wanted to show them a little bit of what we're using our money for. Ms. O'Bannon, I promise you, we use it and we can take some more if we ever get it. But we're great guys, and we invite you guys to come back always. Our kids are great. They're doing a wonderful job. They're trying their best, and we're trying to get them prepared for tomorrow. And that's our goal. We're trying to get them prepared for tomorrow. But what preparation starts, the preparation starts below me. It starts in the elementary level. I think that's probably the most important part of our education system. And I love what you guys are doing. I appreciate what you guys are doing. And our big thing to work as a group is attendance. We're going to work together to get our guys to learn and love school. And that way, when we walk them across the stage, all of us have had our hand in it. And I've talked too long, but if you guys ever want to come back to Green High School, to walk to school, to walk around and just hang out, just give me a call or give one of my APs a call. Two are in here with me, Dr. Jim Julius and Mrs. Moeller. Mr. Jackson, he's actually working home football game tomorrow night. So he's actually working on that. So if anybody want to help, we're going to run four open gates tomorrow to get that going. So if anybody wants to help, you know, we would love having you guys here. But thank you again, guys, for coming. School's always open for you. And again, I said I talk too much, but that's all we have to do, guys. You guys are doing a wonderful job, and we'll do a wonderful job. So just let everybody know what you're doing. Thanks, guys.
I'll go next since middle school. We'll work our way down. I'm Matt Parkin, principal at Purdyville Middle School. I won't take this long because I don't have that much to say. But like Dr. Hedden said, we're pushing a big attendance initiative this year, having some incentives for our kids. And we're talking to parents and talking to them about the incentives and the importance of getting to school and learning. We kind of talked about that yesterday in the principals meeting together about how we can do that as a cluster. So we do have some celebrations so far this year. We have been awarded the Dollar General grant this year so far. It's $4,000 and it's used towards reading intervention materials. We have also been awarded the STED-TRAN Science Grant. And what that does is for our life science classes, the teachers and the students are able to grow tomatoes, onions, and cilantro in their classroom to talk about, you know, the cells and the plant process and growth. And at the end, they get to harvest it, and STED-TRAN comes to the school, and we have a big salsa party to celebrate that part of the standard and the grant. We have a few more grants in the works for some math intervention add-ons. We have some PE things going on. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't think of it. But overall, the culture of our building has been much improved this year. The teachers are liking it. We have had next to no complaints compared to what we had last year. So it has been a good year so far. But, you know, we have had that full moon, and you know how middle schoolers are, so pray for us for the rest of the week. That's all I have. Thank y'all.
Yes, I'm Anthony Davidson, principal at Walnut Grove School. Walnut Grove is the last on the list of schools, but we are definitely the first in the county. So I'm excited to be here. We have a total of 300 students at this time. Absolutely beautiful campus. I walked in about 2 weeks, I think, before school started. I don't know if it was 4 2 weeks, but such an amazing staff that they are teaching me everything that I need to know. The families are amazing. The community is amazing. We are currently in the process of renewing our Blue Ribbon designation, and we are now labeled a model PLC school. So we are excited about that. We are working to celebrate that. But we appreciate you for all of your hard work. Ms. O'Bannon, like you said, if you ever have some extra money you want to throw our way, we'll take it. But we appreciate each of you for what you pour into Walnut Grove, and if there's ever a need from us, please reach out to us and let us know. We will definitely assist you.
Okay, so good afternoon. I am Victoria McAlmond, and I am the principal at Lynn Fanning Elementary. And first, let me say thank you all for entrusting me in leading and serving the Lynn Fanning community. Just a little bit about Lynn Fanning. Currently, we are at 610 students. So we're starting the year off with 16. I think last school year, we ended at 609. So steadily growing, and with that comes some complications, and one that we're on the other side of this year is car rider line. The first couple of weeks we were ending car rider line at 7:42, which is after that bell rings, but we were able to open that lane up to 2 lanes. And now we are finishing at 7:24. So it's an amazing time, especially when we can get the kids in before the bell rings. So we are steadily making things better, putting structure in the building, and just doing what we need to do for our students, their learning and safety. So again, like everyone said, come see the wonderful things that are coming and happening at Lynn Fanning Elementary. We welcome everybody in with a smiling face. Look, we even answered the phone. It's a great day at Lynn Fanning Elementary. So please come and see us. Come visit us. So, thank you.
I'm Jeff Donovan, I'm the principal at Ward Middle Intermediate School. I'm glad I said that right, because I called a parent today and introduced myself as the assistant principal at Monrovia. So I had a great old habits fast. It's great to be back in this community. I'm not from Alabama, but when I moved to Alabama, this is where I got my start. Just a couple of hallways over. Back in the day, we had a community event at Culver's with our kids. And they were opening the doors, and I sat there and was talking to parents about how nearly 20 years ago, how much this area has grown. And my room faced what used to be a cornfield, and now it's a neighborhood, and there's no Walmart up here, so the growth this area has had is fantastic. We've got about 665 students, because I don't want the number to be 666. So we're at 665 students. And when I walked in 2 days before teachers started, I could tell, 2 days before students started, I could tell that the positive energy in that building is almost beyond any building that I've ever been in before. Where our teachers are and their use of our proficiency scales is phenomenal. And so because our teachers are where they need to be and are doing what needs to be done in the classroom, allowed me to take care of anything else that needs to be taken care of in the building. We've had 2 community events. One was welcome parents in, and we've talked to them about our standards-based rating, our efficiency scale, and so we can educate them on how we do things there. And then we had that event last Monday at Culver's, just to kind of get to know our community and raise a little bit of money to help with our instruction side. So once again, I'm glad to be back at Hazelgreen in the family, and thank you for this opportunity.
Dr. Tony Bonds, I'm the principal at Green Elementary School. We have roughly 956 students as of today, which has been a huge change for me. I think it's been a little bit of some growing pains as well. Talk about car rider line, we're down to 724 car rider line, which is a huge deal for us. I felt like the first week and a half, that's all in our haircut was our car ride line. So we've opened it up earlier, and we're trying to accommodate parents so they can get to work as well. We have roughly about 45 pre-K students, and then we've got about 150 as far as faculty and staff in the building as well. We're excited. I'm excited. I did not introduce these ladies. These 2 ladies basically run the school, and I get to run around and have fun with the kids. So this is Hannah Humphrey. She's one of our assistants, and it's Stephanie Smith, the other assistant there. These ladies have made my job tremendously easy. Just to be able to come in the time frame that I was hired, to come into the building and things like the schedule and classroom. Kids could go to class on the first day of school. And that was a huge improvement. Plus, for me to come in and just start trying to build relationships with our faculty and staff. Not only with that, but just with our kids. So if you come by in the morning, I'll try to be out in the car right along, playing my music, trying to help out kids, fist bump them, and get them going for the day. Our kids like to have Mondays on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. So, but we try to make sure that we greet them with a smile and welcome them into Hazel Green each and every day. So, get a chance, please come by and take a visit. Look forward to being with you guys and seeing you guys again.
Fantastic. Thank you, principals. Thank you, administrators of District 1 for presenting. Fantastic. Glad to see a whole bunch of new faces. And I look forward to seeing you while I'm still serving on the board for the next 3 months. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Gray, this is a new staff when you look at our principals across the county. So we're real excited about what's coming for the Hazel Green family and everything they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're glad to have all of them, and we look forward to seeing great things from this district.
I just want to add, I appreciate how we're doing this now, like going to different schools and having them showcase their schools, for some of the board members that might not get to see these smiling faces every day. So I appreciate y'all coming out, appreciate what you do.
Appreciate you inviting us to your community.
Yep.
Yep.
Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Informational items.
Ms. O'Bannon.
Ms. O'Bannon, can you hold on 1 second while Nathan has something he wants to say?
Yes. Before Ms. Bobannon presents, I want to say a few words about this topic, which is specific to this community eligibility provision. First of all, thank you, Mr. President, board members, for giving me a brief moment to speak on this topic. I want to thank parents and interested community advocates for speaking directly to me on this topic. As we navigate this unprecedented challenge of rising inflation, it's imperative that we explore every avenue to support our families and, most importantly, our students. The increasing cost of living is not only squeezing low-income households, but impacting families across all income levels. With prices for essential goods, especially food, continuing to climb, many parents are left to making difficult decisions, often at the expense of their children's well-being. Please excuse me if my numbers are slightly off here. Alabama has 163 school districts in total, with 139 public school systems and 24 private charter school systems. Currently, 109 public school systems in Alabama are participating in the community eligibility provision, meaning that nearly 80% of eligible public school districts in the state are leveraging this program to benefit their communities. However, 30 districts, including Madison County Schools, have opted not to participate, representing just over 20%. Of these, 13 districts are ineligible due to their low identified student percentages, but 17 districts have made the decision not to participate. Madison County Schools are among these 17, yet it's crucial to reassess this stance, particularly in light of current economic realities. The community eligibility provision is not just another program, it's a strategic investment in our students' future. By ensuring every student has access to free, nutritious meals at school, we are directly contributing to their ability to learn, focus, and excel academically. Well-nourished students are better equipped to engage in the classroom, which can lead to higher academic performance and ultimately better long-term outcomes for our district. From a financial perspective, participating in CEP can alleviate administrative burdens associated with managing traditional free and reduced price lunch programs. With CEP, there's no need to track individual applications, reducing paperwork and administrative overhead. Additionally, CEP can potentially stabilize school meal program revenue by increasing meal participation rates. When all students have access to free meals, participation typically rises, leading to a greater economies of scale and more efficient use of resources. Moreover, by opting into CEP district-wide, we send a powerful message to our community that we are committed to the well-being of all students, regardless of their socioeconomic background. This commitment is especially vital during times of economic hardship, when many families, including those typically not considered low income, are struggling to afford basic necessities. It is understandable that there may be some concerns about financial implications of such a move. However, the benefits, both tangible and intangible, I believe outweigh the cost. By participating in CEP, we are not only addressing the immediate needs, but also investing in the long-term success of our students and by extension, our district. As the District 1 representative, I recognize I'll be leaving the school board this November. However, it's my hope this board and future board members will prioritize this initiative for the 25-26 school year. This is just not about responding to challenges we face today, but also laying the groundwork for a stronger and more equitable future for all of our students. Finally, I want to extend my appreciation to Ms. O'Bannon, our Chief School Finance Officer, for her ongoing engagement on this topic. Over the past year, we've had many thoughtful conversations via email, and our openness to considering the potential of CEP has been appreciated. Her willingness to explore this initiative reflects a deep commitment to our students' well-being, and I'm hopeful that together we can bring this important change to fruition. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nate. Ms. O'Bannon?
Thank you, Mr. Curry. I don't know if I don't know if everybody can hear me in the back. Where's Carter?
Just put it down.
I know, but it's going to fall out. It will fall on me. I feel a little strange in Trojan country because my back's to you, but I'm going to speak to the board and I hope that you can hear. I think you can once I get the mic set. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Again, thank you, Mr. Curry. Mr. Curry is right. For a few years now, we've had some conversations, and not only with Mr. Curry, but with some of the other board members, have been inquiring about the district-wide free meals for all students called the Community Eligibility Provision, and we refer to it as CEP. The regulations have changed slightly, and they tend to do that every couple years, but I will try to bring you up to speed as to the pros and cons of this program for our school district as it stands today. I've shared some of these already with Mr. Curry and with Mr. Jones. I brought with me, or I have with me, our district-wide child nutrition program manager, Ms. Danielle Mitchell. And also with me is our assistant superintendent over instruction. That's her new title, because prior to that and recently she was our federal programs director, and she will go over a few slides at the end with you and share some information as this relates to the Title I federal program and our 9 Title I schools. Okay. But first and foremost, I do want to say I thank you again, Mr. Curry. We share in that our goal for the child nutrition program is that every child in this school district has a nutritious breakfast and lunch. We would like to see more participating in the breakfast program. And that is happening in our schools. It is happening. But before I get to the CEP, I wanted to say students from low-income families are provided free meals as long as we have an income application on file. And it's a very easy process to file. The applications are open year-round should the status of a household change. Also, you may not know, but many of our students are directly certified through Medicaid participation and or SNAP benefits. That's the new terminology, I think, for the food program or food assistance program, food stamps. The only time our students received free meals, and all students obviously in the state, was during the COVID 2020 debacle, and it went on into 2021 and part of 2022 because families could not go to work. They weren't able to go to work. So we received a waiver from the federal government that resulted in free school meals for everyone. Once that waiver expired, it was quite a challenge to go back to the income applications for free and reduced price meals. But we've had that going now a few years to get back into the habit of submitting the applications. And these applications are also extremely important for tracking poverty ranking for Title I federal program assistance as well. It's not just for the purpose of the free and reduced price lunch meals, but we received $3.1 million in Title I federal funds that supports our 9 Title I schools. So without going into a lot of details, it gets a little confusing. The CEP, let's talk about it just for a moment. It takes into consideration the ISP, I think Mr. Cree mentioned that, it's the identified student percentage, and factors in Medicaid eligibility free status now. It doesn't factor in Medicaid eligibility for reduced price status, but Ms. Bass will explain that better with her slides. So with the new Medicaid eligibility criteria, we could apply in Madison County for free meals district-wide because our schools have at least a 25% poverty classification. And does that mean it is a viable or fiscally sound option? And I'm going to go over a few things talking about our general fund for Madison County, because it may not be, not necessarily right now, because when Ms. Mitchell and her team ran the numbers based on the new reimbursement rates under CP, it would cost the school district from general fund at least $1.5 million annually. We already transfer $2.5 to $3 million from general fund per year to the child nutrition program to make sure the program has a 1 month of operations in reserves that's required by the state. We're working toward building that reserve somewhat to 2 to 2.5 months in child nutrition to help equip the new cafeteria at the McKee Road School. And due to USDA compliance requirements, we're now forced to update equipment in several of our kitchens, and we will be purchasing combi and convection ovens to replace the fryers that we are no longer allowed to use. We were already planning to phase them out and trying to do that as they stop working. But now it's mandated, and so that's going to add more cost to the child nutrition budget with the snowball effect of needing more support from the general fund. And in a minute, I will briefly cover other priorities for general fund that we have at the board and we have on our radar. But a little bit more about the extra cost to go district-wide with CEP. Again, the estimated cost of $1.5 million is based on the USDA reimbursement rate under CMP as a result of where our students are currently classified. How many qualify for free now? How many students qualify for reduced price? How many qualify for paid and paying meals? And we do get a reimbursement back on all those classifications. It ranges in nature, but we are, believe it or not, a more affluent school district compared to many districts in this state. So it becomes a challenge for us financially with the cost that is involved, considering other general fund obligations. The State Department of Education cautions school districts to make sure when considering CEP that it is a viable option financially for the long term, preferably for the long term. We were told we could change back mid-year if we were struggling or if it was a struggle. But again, that would be a disaster for our families and the program because it was really tough after the waiver expired from the COVID years. To start it and pull it out, I don't think is an option. So we do need to, when we consider this, we need to be able to commit long-term should we ever move forward. So let me briefly mention for the folks here tonight that maybe you're not at the board member meetings regularly and are not familiar with our budget, but we'll be covering our fiscal year 2025 general fund budget, all fund types, in early September and go over our budget hearing. So tonight, the immediate needs that are on the board's agenda in front of us, I will be talking about them. And these are from general fund and from our reserve in general fund. We've made a lot of progress, we're happy to say, to reach our goal of having an SRO on every campus. And we are still working with the Sheriff's Department as deputies become trained to hire additional deputies. Some are retirees. So this comes from the general operating fund. And also, it is no secret, shaky hands. It is no secret the growth that we're seeing in Madison County, and our local revenue simply can't keep up. But as we can, we're transferring funds from general fund to the capital front projects funds to pay as we go for at least the two major construction projects that we're carrying as funded in the capital plan that's on the agenda tonight. And those two projects are McHugh Road, new school in the Tony and Sparkman area, and a 12 classroom wing right here on this campus. So it's funded, and we're getting ready to bid that February-ish, we think. So those are the two funded that we're using some of our general funds to help so that we pay as we go. Market is not great right now, so interest rates, it's not a great time or a good time to go to the market and issue warrants. We will also be using the funds in our reserve to hire the support employees for that new school. The teachers transfer with the students, and we earn those teacher units through the state. But the nursing, all the different support personnel will come from our general fund. And we'll need to cover all the operational costs to turn on the lights in that building. So utility costs are at the top of the list. So when we look at our budget for the construction of the new school, these things are not part of that budget, and they come from general fund once that school opens. And I have one more area that we have to highlight that we'll talk more about the increasing cost for our students with special needs at our upcoming budget hearing, and I would love for you to all be there September 5th. But just one example is the SPED aids needed in the classroom. This school year, we've gone from 54 of our Kelly aides to 61, and from 95 McBow aides to 108. So we have 169 aides to cover through our IDB federal money, and it does not extend that far. So we go into general fund. And this is just one cost, and it's difficult to project the cost for our special need population because the needs are many, and we have students coming in at all times during the school year, coming in from other states and coming in from other districts. These costs are non-negotiable, and they're very difficult to budget for. Another hit on our general fund. Our hope is Mr. Curry's hope too, that we would like to see, what we would like to see is USDA standards that make it more feasible for our district, considering the poverty district-wide, to benefit from the CEP program at no cost to the district. And we are and will continue to monitor it from year to year. Now, we do have, Ms. Bass will be coming up. She's been gracious enough to share information she researched and pulled together related to the Title I schools. We have 5 of our 9 Title I schools that qualify for CEP because they have when you include that multiplier 1.6, a poverty rating of 62.5% or higher. And I won't mention those schools. I think you have that in your. So I'm going to welcome Ms. Bass now. And then any questions when she's finished, I'll be glad to address those.
So I was asked to speak to what the impact is for federal funds regarding CEP. And so although the free lunch program does have benefits for our children, and I would never dispute that. Obviously, I've lived in the world of taking care of our poverty kids for the last 6 years, so very near and dear to my heart. But when I was in third grade, a teacher in third grade, one of the lessons that we taught was opportunity cost. And I think that that's what we're going to talk about in relation to CEP, because with an exchange for anything, there are some consequences for that. So I wanted to go through what that opportunity cost looks like for our Title I schools. So when CEP first came out, it was for the schools that had very high rates of poverty. So to take you back to the COVID time period when we did not collect free and reduced lunch forms, during that time they froze the poverty count at the 2019 pool before everything shut down and before all the children were being fed free and reduced lunch. And so at that time, we did not collect applications for free and reduced lunch unless a parent wanted to fill it out, but it wasn't mandatory. So we decreased in system poverty rate, I think around 16 to 18% because we weren't collecting those forms. But we were frozen at the 2019 rate. So our Title I funding remained level during that time, and our distribution of those funds also remained level during that time. Now, with CEP, the calculation is a little bit different. So if we were to choose to provide the CEP at the 5 Title I schools that qualify, that's no cost to the district to do that out of pocket. They qualify for 100% breakfast and lunch feeding through the CEP program. But what that does is then it forces us to have 2 different calculations for our poverty rate as a system. So in the 5 schools that would qualify, their poverty rate would be calculated by taking the percent of students who are direct served. So that means they come in either because they're on SNAP or Medicaid or TANF, where they're receiving benefits in their home. Those students come in automatically to us through computer access. So it loads automatically into our poverty rate. With CEP, there's a multiplier, 1.6. When that number comes in generated from those automatic draws, that is multiplied by 1.6 for those 5 schools. At the remainder of the schools in the district, they would collect free and reduced lunch forms. So while they collect free and reduced lunch forms, their percent poverty would be ranked in that way. Does that make sense? So in exchange for that, it could cause some fluctuation in the rank order for our schools. But more importantly than that, it changes the way that funding would be distributed to our Title I schools. So I sent you guys a presentation and it has this chart in it, but there are 3 options when you become CEP that you can utilize to come up with the free and reduced lunch count. You can use the free count plus the reduced count, which is what we currently do. You can use the free count, which is 20 to 30% lower than the actual poverty percentage in most of our schools, where we calculate free and reduced both. And then you can do the direct serve times the 1.6 multiplier. You can only use the direct serve times 1.6 multiplier if you are CEP. So if we went district-wide CEP, poverty rate would be calculated 1.6 times the direct cert number. If we did the 5 Title I schools that qualify that cost the district no money, those 5 would be the 1.6 times their direct cert number, and the others would be based on their free and reduced lunch forms. Does that make sense? Okay, so I just did the math calculations of how it would impact if we were CEP today, and we utilize those multipliers. So there's a chart at the end of that presentation where it shows our current free and reduced lunch allocations for FY25. And then if we had to recalculate using the 1.6 for the 5 Title I schools that would receive CEP, and then for the remaining 4 that do not. And when I do that calculation, all of the schools would have a reduction in their allocation except 2. Madison County Elementary School would get a substantial increase because they have a substantial number of direct serve students multiplied by the 1.6. Harvest Elementary School would get a substantial increase. But for all the other schools, there would be a reduction. Now, for the 5 schools that would be served, the reduction would not be as significant. However, Sparkman Middle is an example. They would lose approximately $12,000 in funding, which would mean that we would cut a person who's currently employed under Title I because we wouldn't have enough to cover all of those salaries. For our other schools that would not be served under CEP calculations, Hazel Green Elementary School would lose about $28,000 in Title I funding. New Hope Elementary would lose about $17,000 in Title I funding. Walnut Grove Elementary would lose about $8,000, and New Market about $11,000. If you round up, 12. So it's not without consequence when we make a choice like this. Now, obviously, if we went with the $1.5 million cost to the district and did all the schools, this calculation would look different. I did run some of those numbers. I didn't put it all into a chart, but it throws the rank and serve off because like you have Sparkman High School, which is a very large high school, and then they have their direct certification number. You multiply that times 1.6. It changes where they would fall in the rank order. It would change where Hazel Green High School would fall in that rank order. So again, just a different opportunity cost, right? Because you have to choose. If every kid at the school is getting free breakfast and free lunch, does that outweigh the benefit of the people who are providing the services to the students in these high poverty schools? And so those are just some of the choices that we would have to make. But the goal was to make sure that the board was aware and informed of how all of that could potentially impact the district. So, any questions?
If we was to pay for it as a district, we might lose lunchroom ladies.
I don't know the answer to that. He said if we were to pay for it as a district, what would be the cafeteria impact for employees in the cafeteria?
There wouldn't be. I mean,
No. When I say like New Hope would have to lose, they would lose a teacher that's being currently, no, who's currently being paid out of Title I. So Hazel Green is a unit that's being paid for out of Title I. New Hope Elementary would definitely, Walnut Grove would either lose tutoring or a teacher, and New Market would likely lose their resource teacher. So there is an impact there.
And when you say lose, you mean specifically lose out of with Title I funding?
Correct.
We'd have to, if we wanted to keep it, we'd have to invest it with local funds.
That's correct.
Okay.
But you really, it's very tricky when you start to do the investment with local funds because of supplanting laws. And so we just, and again, it would change the rank order for the whole district's free and reduced lunch because you're no longer collecting those forms. You take that direct cert number, multiply it by 1.6. And when you do that, it changes the poverty rate at every school from what it has been. We've seen an increase in our district's poverty percentage over the last, I've been in the position 7 years, and we've gained poverty over that time. The difference is it's in pockets. Your direct certification children come in through, like I said, computer generated, because they are already receiving benefits from the government in some way. And so every school has some children like that. Some have more than others, and largely it's dependent on the number of kids in that school. So, but every time you change that percentage, you change the number of students who you have to divide the money between. And we do know that when we build McKee Road, that will automatically be a Title I school. The kids are being pulled from Title I schools. We suspect that when if Hazel Green Middle School is ever built, it too would be a Title I middle school, which would be served. So you're already starting to split that pot of money. And so it's just some things to consider, not, just want everybody to have all of the facts about that. And I can do the calculation of what it would be if we were district-wide and use that number and provide that to you. I just did not do that for this presentation because it seemed like this would be a more likely scenario. So any questions for me before you talk to Ms. O'Bannon? No? Okay.
Thank you.
The schools that qualify with the, yeah,
It's Madison Crossroads, Madison County, Spartan Middle, Harvest Elementary, and Owens Crossroads. Those are the 5 that would qualify with no cost to the district, other than the Title I reconfiguration.
and the Title I reconfiguration is instructional services.
That's correct, instructional services.
Have you seen, I think, leveling of our funding, local funds, or are we still increasing in our local revenues year over year?
Our sales tax is not, it's leveled out the
Okay.
last couple of years. Property taxes, yes, however, the legislators, in all their glory, have put a cap on the growth for property taxes. So I don't know what that's going to look like, and then we also don't know what remind me, Mr. Cubic, the private school, what.
Choose Act.
Choose Act, what impact that will have. And I think that's beginning in 2027. So property taxes are growing, Mr. Curry, and that's how we've been able to do some capital things. The way we've been able to set aside funds for the new McKee Road School and the wing here and whatever we might be able to do for the building at Career Tech. And to start the process of planning for a middle school on this campus to relieve all the overcrowding has been when sales taxes, before COVID, increased by 20% for like 3 years. And we set that aside for capital. And then when the state also supplemented helped us offset some local funds with the A&T money that we could use for school bus purchases, we could use for building insurance, we set that aside. And that's the only way, because we've maxed out on borrowing, and that's really the only way we've been able to do anything capital-wise. And that's how, but some of the property taxes, they did increase this year. I don't have the numbers with me, but it was close to 17-18%, but it's my understanding that growth will be capped based on the law that the legislators passed last session. And our assessments are 1 year in arrears, so we're okay for the upcoming fiscal year 25. But we won't see the growth that we've been seeing because of the cap on the revenues.
So as you can see, there's no one that is anti-wanting to provide meals for all of our students throughout the thing, throughout the district and not the schools. Everybody would love to do that if it was something what we chose to go. The thing is there is a cost to this. And it's a cost of approximately right now, based on the current numbers, $1.5 million a year. And that's a reoccurring cost. It's not a one-time hit.
It can change from year to year.
It can. And so and I think Ms. O'Bannon puts this very eloquent. She's like going, we can do some things, we just can't do everything. And so we just have to decide what we're going to do. And the growth that is hitting this district as far as our overcrowded is critical. And if there was a way that this becomes a smaller number, it may be more feasible. But you're talking about in a 6 years at 1.5, you're talking about what the cost of this entire wing is going to be approximately for Hazel Green High School. And so that's what you got to weigh out, is what is the cost that's associated with it. And please remember that this has no bearing on anyone who is eligible for free lunch right now. If the parents will fill out the form and complete the form, they're eligible and will get free lunch, which is provided by the feds, as well as the reduced rate. What we're talking about is covering the cost of the other students that aren't on there. So again, there's a lot of parents that aren't taking the time to complete the forms where they would be able to take advantage of this that's already in place. So I just don't want it to come off as like this is something that the district is anti-against, because that's not the case. We would love to do it if it was financially feasible. Unfortunately, in a district like ours, and Ms. O'Bannon talked about the 17% growth on, well, the cap is 7. So out of the 10%, there's an extra 10% growth in property tax that we're not going to see anymore, because legislation this past year has capped the growth that we can get. So you add that, and you have the CHOOSE Act, and you have the impact of other special programs that drain and add additional resources that we need to cover. It's hard to say, that we can just go ahead and write a check for 1.5 million just to make sure everybody has lunch. And again, it's not that we don't want to do that. It's just that what do we have to give up in order to do that?
I mean, I agree that it is a check. I just feel like it's a check worth writing. I think there's an investment that we can make. I think when I see school districts, larger and smaller, participating in this program, certainly we have some unique situations in Madison County. I understand the growth, I understand the need for infrastructure, totally understand those variables are unique to Madison County. But I still believe that if we look at children at all income levels, if we can provide those meals and we can do it financially feasible, I agree. If we can do it the best way we can, I think it's worth the effort and the energy to see how can we make this happen. I believe the district wants to do it. I believe the district is interested in doing this. I just want us to pour the energy into seeing how we can make this work. Explore every avenue, see what we can do to make this possible. And we have revenue increases. I understand we have infrastructure needs, but I think our children of all socioeconomics, I know a lot of families who struggle and they don't do lunch because they can't afford to do lunch. They send their kids and they fall outside the threshold of the free and reduced program, and they struggle with this. And to have an opportunity to have a nutritious meal, have an opportunity for our CMP workers to have more participation, I think it's an opportunity. Certainly there's opportunity costs, but it's an opportunity for us to consider. So I appreciate Ms. O'Bannon. We've talked about this through email for a good while. And I just wanted to let the public also be aware that we have had these conversations and we are trying to balance this and trying to make sure, and I'm still an advocate for this program as much as we can do. Thank you.
All right, what is the percentage that would get us to the threshold for all schools to be, is it 30%? What was the number? For free and reduced lunch, what was the percentage of the schools? It's 62%. Where are we at right now? I mean, I didn't mean to throw that right at you, but do you know? How much?
42%.
So we're about 20% away. Okay.
In Madison County, we can't see that happen. We are one of the most closed systems. And we do have other systems that are doing it, but because there is no cost. And some have, tried to half and half, and they've regretted it, because it's a real disaster as far as, the bookkeeping and the tracking everything and with their Title I. But again, we're looking at every option and, that's just where our percentages lie right now.
I'm good.
You good? Anything else?
Thank you.
It just don't make it be something we try until we know this is what we want to do.
I agree.
Trying is terrible for our families and our community.
Yeah, that would be one of the unfortunate things is to go and do this and then say, okay, we can't afford to keep this going, and then all of a sudden we're cutting it back. That's kind of the impact that we got from the COVID when it ended and everybody was being fed, and then we had to go back to having applications. And that was a challenge to get started again.
Yes,
And
sir.
they did give us a year of grace when we did that. They gave us an extra year of the process while we had this option. So, because they knew it would be an adjustment for the families to resubmitting that form. And so if we did that, then we gave ourselves a year of grace there. So that's just another thing, to consider. Those big transitions are hard on the families and to adjust the expectations.
All right, we're ready for instructional department update.
Yep.
Ms. Bass?
It's me again, wearing a different hat this time. So this is instruction. We're going to talk a little bit about our progression in the work that we have been doing as a district since 2017 on professional learning communities, and it has progressed from just working on collaborative teams to really working on what essential learning means for students, which has led to the proficiency scale work that has been ongoing for the past few years. So one thing I wanted to point out, and I did send you guys a presentation. Yes, sir.
Could you send that to us, Ms. Bass? I was looking for it.
Well, it's in the assembly. Do you want me to share it with you?
I didn't check it.
Do you want me to shoot it in an email real quick? I can do it.
I'll check this out. I can check this. I mean, I didn't look there. We can share if I can get it.
Okay. I just need to pop it in real quick. You got it? Okay. Mr. Bird, what's your district number? Okay. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I shared it. So you should have it. Okay. So like I said, this work began in 2017 when we held our first training on the professional learning communities. The data, the reason that this work began is because the focus is on continuous improvement for our district. And we believe that research shows that this work is valuable for our students. Prior to Madison County Schools starting the work with proficiency scales, Alabama had already started this work at the State Department of Education level. AMSTI has had essential standards and proficiency scales for quite some time. ARI adopted them, and the Alabama State Department of Education has been providing ongoing training and support for the implementation of the use of proficiency scales, as well as the alignment of proficiency scales with PowerSchool. So we're not doing anything really outside of the scope of what the State Department of Education, the direction that they are heading with this work. So when I sent my response to Mr. Byrd, and I believe most of the board members were copied on that, I used the term standards-based grading versus standards-based reporting. As I put my presentation together, I decided that that verbiage is probably a little bit confusing. So I changed the verbiage, and in the presentation, you will see that it is standards-based learning and standards-based reporting. And I feel comfortable with the shift that I made there, because what we're currently doing with proficiency scales is work in the classroom, not work externally outside of the classroom. So to give you a little bit of background on standards-based learning, the reason that proficiency scales are important, first of all, when we establish these protocols, we've asked teachers to really become experts on what they're teaching. We want them to know and understand their content. We want them to know and understand what the most important components of what they're teaching are, and what it means when a student masters those components. And the work with proficiency scales has been focused on making sure that teachers know what mastery of each individual standard looks like, and that students know and understand what mastery of those standards look like. So standards-based learning is focused on grades or outcomes reflecting the mastery of their learning. For the last 30 years that I've been working in education, we've been really focused on a grade, and that being the outcome. But what the grade means is where we're trying to really shift the mindset of our staff, our students, and at some point, hopefully, our parents to better understand this work. So standards-based reporting is focused on communicating progress to external groups. So just standards-based learning is to focus on internal, what's in the classroom. Standards-based reporting is external. It's what gets sent on a progress report or a report card. If we shifted to standards-based reporting, it would require a change in board policy. Standards-based grading in the classroom is focused on learning. So the key differences of the standards-based learning process is that the teacher is evaluating, assessing, providing another opportunity to learn it, reevaluating, assessing, providing another opportunity to learn it. The implementation of standards-based learning happens in the classroom during instruction. The implementation of standards-based reporting happens in the context of a report card or a progress report that is sent home. We have several schools working through the process of providing our students that feedback, relearn it until we get to mastery opportunity. So the goal of the work with proficiency scales is different for teachers, students, and parents. First, for our teachers, we need them to know their standards, and we need them to know what it means for a student to master a standard. The goal is for the teacher to have a culture in the classroom that values learning over a grade. And we hear from industry all the time, our kids need grit. They need to learn to stick with things. And the truth is, if you give a final assessment and let's say a student doesn't make the progress expected, and that's the end of it. That's the end of it. The goal with this kind of work is that when a student doesn't master it, they get retaught, they get reassessed until we know that they know the content. That is the goal of the work with the proficiency scales. It also allows the teacher to communicate effectively with the student on exactly what the student knows. Now, from the student perspective, we want them to understand exactly what they need to know. So we provide these expectations for the standards. We provide the expectation of what mastery looks like for that student. And again, the outcome for the student is, I can not do well on this today, I can be retaught, and I can do well on this tomorrow or the next day, and I'm continuously in the process of learning. The goal is to encourage a growth mindset, to encourage ownership of learning, to make sure that students understand exactly what they're struggling with, intervention being provided for that, and the student ultimately mastering the standard. The reason that this is important for parents to understand the work that's happening in the classroom is because if a parent comes in to a parent-teacher conference, and having done all the jobs in education that I've done, parents will get upset when report cards come home and their kids don't have a grade that they find acceptable. But they rarely ask, what is it that my student doesn't know or understand? They'll ask, why does my student have a D? But they don't ask the question of, what has my child learned and what has my child not learned? With this work with essential standards and proficiency scales, when a parent comes in for a conference, a teacher is able to give them specific feedback that lets them know exactly what their child knows and exactly what their child is missing. So I would use an example of a student receiving a grade of a 76 on a report card even, or a progress report. And that parent sees that and they think, my child is performing average. But maybe their child made perfect scores on fractions, but they didn't understand how to convert a fraction to a decimal. And so when they see that grade, it's holistic and it's a representation, but they don't get that specific feedback. Our goal of this work would be that when that parent comes into that conference, that teacher knows exactly what it is that kid doesn't know, and they can sit down and have that conversation with that parent. This is a process, though. You cannot roll it out all at once. The districts that have had major problems with the rollout is that they just changed the scale, which is the part that's in our board policy, the 90 to 100. They rolled out a change in the grading scale, but the teachers didn't have the knowledge and understanding of what a proficiency scale is. The teachers didn't have the knowledge and understanding of mastery. The parents didn't have the understanding of why this work is important, and so it has failed. Huntsville City had a really hard time with it when they rolled it out. I think they even retracted it. But our board policy is currently focused on reporting. And I did put in the board policy, and I highlighted in red. It says teachers will assign grades and confer academic credit for work and activities performed by students in accordance with objective and generally accepted instructional and grading standards. This is a generally accepted instructional and grading standard. In fact, it's what research shows is best for kids. So the use of these essential standards in the feedback loop in the classroom is appropriate. You all probably remember in school getting rubrics where your teacher may have given you points for what you've done as opposed to a grade of maybe a 100. This is very similar to that work. The difference is this is focused on mastery of learning for a specific student. Now, the grading scale is there. Our schools that are using this are fitting this into the grading scale work. They are converting I would say that what they're doing right now is providing students specific feedback on where they are on essential standards. And they have provided the students with a scale for a 1 is that you're emerging, you're not proficient. A 4 is that you're exceeding expectations. And they equate that to a grade scale. But ultimately, when their grades are reported out, it is being reported out on a report card with these same grades, and it is being reported out on progress reports the same way. The difference is that when a parent has a question about their child's grade, they can get very specific feedback on what created that grade. And that isn't something that we have traditionally been able to do. So we are going to provide standards-based training September 4th and 5th, November 19th and 20th, January 21st and 22nd, March 4th and 5th. And we would love for any of you to join us so that you can learn more about this process and the value of it for our students.
I have several questions. And I'm going to ask a couple of them now, and I'll ask more in the executive session because I want to figure out how we got here.
Okay.
The first question I have goes to, and I'm going to have to flip up a little bit, and I read your slides. Believe it or not, I read quite a bit. Is your first slide which says fall. Grading and standard-based learning performance is measured against defined standards and learning goals and not against being compared to other students. Now, I taught and I was trained to teach objective-based teaching, which is essentially very similar to a standard. And all your objectives were supposed to be in alignment with our Alabama course curriculum. Could you explain to me where we're competing students against students to get grades? Because in my mind's eye, this sounds like the bell curve that's frequently used in college. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the bell curve in college, they'll have like 6 students, and the professor will look at you and say, student number 1 gets an A, student number 2 and 3, they get a B, student number 4 gets a C, and 5 and 6, well, you're on your own. Where are we competing students against students to get grades? Because I'd like to know that, because I'm not happy with that.
No, I think what that is referencing is that this is individualized. The goal of the proficiency standards is that every kid would know which standards they've mastered and which ones they haven't. And when we report out, so an example of this that I think I could reference is when we do multiplication madness in a classroom and we're putting the kids in order of achievement. That's a comparison. So if you know your 1s, you get the star. If you know your 2s, you get the star. You're a math teacher, maybe not early elementary, but that is a way that maybe students kept up with their growth and progress. And that would show a display of where they were in comparison to their peers who may have learned their 9s multiplication facts when they're still on their 3s. This is more individual feedback as opposed to a competition to make a 100 versus a competition to master the standard.
But in the average middle school kid, you introduce a 1 through 4 scale, they're gonna figure out real quickly that one's failing and four is 100.
The difference,
And
though,
I
is that the
understand.
goal is that it's retaught, reassessed, and growth is the goal. The learning is the outcome. The goal is to have everyone focused on what did the child learn? What does the child know and able to do versus a score that is an outcome.
I read board policy a little bit every now and then, and I read your slide, it says the work is currently focused. And the next slide has board policy. And I'll read straight from the board policy. Grades for academic coursework. Now, in my life, coursework consists of stuff that's done inside the classroom. And that is things like quizzes, tests, homework, various assignments that teachers give. Now, I share very much in having grading systems that measure not effort, but actual achievement. And one of my concerns about this is that, like tomorrow, in this building with 1,435 kids, they're going to be grading on this scale. There will be kids that will be receiving this because it involves a Carnegie unit, the transferability of a Carnegie unit, and the same thing as far as the amount of steps or skills required to solve more intense problems. I said last year, and I'll say right now, and I've said to Mr. Cubic privately, for lower grades, I have no problems with this. But let's take a look at the skills required to solve a multivariate equation, distributed property on both sides, and let's take a look at those skills. Skill 1 is you got to do distributed property correctly. Skill 2, you're going to have to, that means you got to multiply your variables, multiply your numbers. Skill 3, you're going to have to combine like terms. Skill 4, you're going to have to combine your numbers. Skill 5, you're going to have to move all your variables over to one side called the variable side of the equation. Skill 6, you're going to have to move your numbers to the other side of the equation. Skill 7, you're going to have to do a one-step equation in order to solve it. My concern, and we'll talk a little bit more about how this whole thing developed. If I got a teacher who's trying to create this massive database of 7 skills, what are they going to teach? And the other thing I have is that, and that's just 7th and 8th grade math I'm talking about. I can talk to you about the high school algebra and geometry, and those skill sets start going off the wall.
Sure.
So
What I'd like to say to that is a perfect example of why proficiency scales are important. Because those multi-step problems build. And that knowledge comes from knowledge that they learn over multiple grade levels in multiple courses. And as a child masters each one of those 7 things that you represented, they would then know that they could go on to be successful on a multi-step problem. So that teacher is not assessing all of those. She is assessing, or he is assessing, what is essential to that grade level expectation. So they're not assessing all 7 of those. They're assessing the essential learning for the course that you are talking about, for the standards in that course. If there are prerequisite skills, those are assessed as prerequisite skills in prior courses. Because with math, it builds. And if they haven't mastered those standards before they get to you, I imagine it's very frustrating. And so the goal of this work is mastery before they move on. And the goal is so that kids know exactly what they've mastered before they move on. So your example is great as far as highlighting why this work is important.
But going back, the difference between, you're an elementary school teacher.
Yes, sir.
And how many kids do you have in your room?
When I taught in Virginia, around 30.
I taught frequently 180 kids a day.
Correct, because you did multiple grades, and I've done that as well.
No, I taught math. And I even taught Mr. Cubit's kids. And, because I was on a 7-period block, 6 times 30 is, you know.
I've done that work as well.
How are we going, I have 3 concerns. I'm not gonna go much into it. Concern number 1 is I'm concerned about transferability. Concern number 2, I'm concerned that my interpretation of board policy is different than yours.
I think your interpretation is different from mine, but
And
what
they
I
don't-
read
and
is
no-
that teachers may assign a grade
I-
based on a generally accepted instructional or grading standard. And they rubrics for years.
and I
They
read that
had scaled scores for years, and proficiency scales are no different than that, other than we're expecting a student to master the learning, not just receive a grade.
I have a motion for session.
Motion.
On what count, on what basis? General reputation.
General reputation of current and past employees.
I have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go to executive session on the matter of general reputation and character. All those in favor? Aye. All right, we are in session for a few minutes.
she's trying to do right now.
I'm aware of this too.
Appreciate that. Thank you to everyone. We're going to move forward with the board meeting, and we had a request to address the board. So I'll call your name. If you're here, just let me know.
Mary Gardunia.
Miss Mary Gardunia.
Good job.
You can come right up here, ma'am. And we'll give you 3 minutes, and our attorney will time it to give her-
Okay,
get her clock up.
that shouldn't be a problem. All right, so thank you for allowing me to speak to the Madison County School Board, providing universal, talking about providing the free meals to the entire community of learners. Before I explain my reasons for this federally funded community eligibility provision, or CEP, I would like to disclose 2 things. I'm a teacher in Madison County, but I'm also a parent in the system. However, my daughters do receive the free lunch because their lives touch the foster care system. So I'm not here because I want my children to get free lunch. I'm here because I believe it's fair for everybody. I also, number 2, I like a bargain, and I feel like Madison County should take advantage of this deal offered by the federal government. Recently, the threshold to qualify for CEP was dropped from 40% down to 25%, and that's an effort to provide it to more students. So let's see, Madison County has qualified for this assistance that I'm aware of for the last 2 years, and I just believe firmly that Madison County should take advantage of this. Right now, we're at 40%, 42% of free meals. So let me get started on the reasons. I come to you as a proud Alabama public educator immersed in Madison County communities. The reality is that children look to us as our leaders, caregivers, and mentors. These learners not only look to us as leaders when they're in our classrooms, but when they leave and carry on with their lives. What they remember the most is how much we as leaders cared for them. With the help of the CEP program, we have an opportunity to provide for our communities, for our families, and for our students with the fuel that they need to thrive, the fuel for nutritious meals. I'd like to go over some of the reasons, like some of you have already stated, about why the district-wide free meals is beneficial. 1, the impact on children's health. The school meals are healthy, therefore providing health effects for our whole communities. As a teacher who now has to be at school at 7 a.m., I'm relieved to know that my daughters will be able to eat a healthy meal rather than a packaged Pop-Tart that I have to throw at them on my way into school. Increased meal participation. It's been shown and proven that the more open this is, the more students will eat these free meals. The elimination of the school debt. I've spoken with CMP managers who have shared that they feel like bill collectors when they have to start hounding and calling families to pay up for these meals that the students are eating. The schools would no longer need to count each meal in a fee category. It simplifies the meal administration. It streamlines food service operations. School districts no longer collect, process, verify meal applications, thus freeing up staff to allow to be focused on meal quality, school wellness, and student engagement. Some students fall into the cracks. Oh man, really? That was it? All right. I won't ask one thing. I understand that this is a problem, that there's a fee associated with it. I would just ask that our board and our community start lobbying to our state legislatures, if that is the problem, to provide for our students. Because I do believe with my heart that we all do want to feed our kids.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
You did good. All right, sir. Let me get recommend this.
Administrative items, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I recommend approval of the MCSS 25-26 academic calendar as submitted.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the Enrichment Center School-Based Therapy Services Agreement as submitted.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the July financial statements and payment of bills as submitted.
Time out. Did we miss the capital plan?
We're moving
it.
Oh, that's the one you moved. I thought we moved something else. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we moved, are we moving
Move
C?
Moving C all the way to the end.
Okay, so we're not, okay. So you're on D.
We're on D. Yes, sir.
I have a. Need a motion. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the contracts for services as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the Alabama Reading Initiative Interventionist job description as submitted.
Motion.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of personnel items, addendum 1 and addendum 2 as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the assistant principal probationary contracts as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of supplemental contracts and discontinued contracts as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, that concludes our, board meeting.
Nope. What are we doing with the capital plan?
We have an executive session for a unique transfer and a real estate discussion. So when we come back out of executive session, we'll just be voting on those two items
And C.
and the
Capital plan.
yeah, and the capital plan. I would like to once again thank Hazel Green for inviting us and showing us the beautiful campus, and I appreciate it. I think everybody's gone down, but anybody have anything for the good of the board before we go?
We got a football game starting tomorrow
Yep.
night.
No?
We have, tomorrow night, we have, I think it's Hazel Green, Buckhorn are both at home tomorrow night.
Yeah. Buckhorn plays Gator.
Yeah, and everyone else is on the road. The other three are on the road. And the volleyball, I think, started tonight. Did they not, Mark? Volleyball?
Yes.
Yep. And middle school stuff. So, as of,
No calories.
we, with probationary contracts, we have all the administrative staff is filled at this point.
Yes. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're in executive session.